the 15 children who were living at the house were under the care of six nannies who slapped, spanked, and in at least one instance forced a 3-year-old to do squats. The surveillance footage also showed a nanny shaking the child who was eventually taken to the hospital, the child who started this whole investigation.
Katherine, welcome to Times Radio. Thanks for being with us. What an astonishing story. How did this situation come to light?
After a baby was taken to a hospital in Southern California, nurses at the hospital suspected a possible case of child abuse. They sent police to the baby's home. Their authorities found 15 other children, and the investigative trail eventually led them to six more. The woman living at the house, Sylvia Zhang, said that she's the mother of all the children, but police were confused why the children had been born all over the country and in such quick succession. Most of them were under the age of 3. So they called in the FBI, and at that point, surrogates who had given birth to many of the children began finding each other. They began posting on social media, and news began spreading, and that's how I first heard of it.
And look, so they discovered that the home that these children were being, one says held in, held is perhaps a pejorative term, but nonetheless, that's where they were being held, was listed as the headquarters of something called Mark Surrogacy. What do we know about what that is?
Yeah, the children were living in the home. Mark Surrogacy is a surrogacy agency, and online it marketed itself as a fairly typical surrogacy agency. That's a company that connects parents, people who want to be parents but can't bear children themselves or would rather not bear children themselves, with women who are willing to do so for them. And this is a flourishing, it's a fast growing and multi-billion-dollar industry here in the United States.
Okay, and I mean, just to understand what the law is like in the United States, would it have been illegal for this couple to have adopted that many children who were born as surrogates if there was nothing else going on?
So, backing up just a second, the children are the children of these couple. They weren't
Hmm.
adopted. The law
Yeah.
in the United States is that if a couple has a child through a surrogate, they're able to apply to a judge in many states in the U.S. for what's called a pre-birth order. That means that when the child is born, their names are listed on the birth certificate as the child's parents. So it's a separate system from adoption, really. So in the U.S., surrogacy is governed by a patchwork of laws. It varies from state to state. But overall, there's a fairly permissive attitude towards surrogacy here. It's quite lightly regulated.
Okay, but the fact that there were so many babies in the house, and the fact that the house itself was the headquarters of something called mock surrogacy, obviously leads people to suspect that there is something strange going on. The investigation is focusing on whether the couple are selling these babies. Why might that be happening? Is there a big sort of secondary surrogacy black market?
The investigation, this is according to surrogates who have spoken with federal agents in recent weeks and months. The investigation is focusing on human trafficking. So you're right, whether the couple is possibly selling the babies. And I should say, the investigation appears to be in its early stages, and it's just an investigation at this point. No charges have been filed. There have been some calls from people particularly affiliated with the Trump administration to look into surrogacy as a possible route for foreign nationals to obtain U.S. citizenship for their children. Some people have described this as a scheme to game the U.S. birthright citizenship system. People within the surrogacy community, surrogacy industry professionals say that that's likely not happening. It's quite expensive to have a child through a surrogate. It's not a very easy process. It can be quite emotionally fraught. And if one wanted to have a citizenship selling scheme, people in the surrogacy industry say, well, there might just be easier ways to do it.
Sure. Okay. So look, some of the women who gave birth to these children have been contacted. What was their understanding of the situation? What did they think was happening?
The surrogate carriers who gave birth to the children, they feel that they've been deceived. When they were contacted by Sylvia Zhang, the woman who says she's the mother of all the children and who is also a manager of the surrogacy agency, Mark Surrogacy, She described herself to many of them as the parent of either no children or just one child. She didn't disclose that she was both the intended parent and the manager of the surrogacy company. She told different things to different surrogates about her relationship to the company, about her relationship with the man that she described to us in interviews as her husband, Guo Junxuan. They only found out that she had so many children. We now know of 22 children, although she has declined to tell us how many children she has. Towards the very end, when many of them had already given birth, and sometimes after they had been contacted by the FBI.
Is there anything illegal about that? Was she obliged to tell the people who were carrying the children what her real situation was, to disclose to them what kind of conditions they were going to end up living in, all that kind of thing?
The family law attorneys we spoke to said it's unlikely that the surrogates have any standing to sue her for misrepresenting the size of her family, although some surrogates have retained an attorney and are exploring their options.
Right. Okay. And how much do we know about Sylvia Zhang and the woman the man she says is her husband? What I mean, are they well known figures? Is there much that's been revealed about them?
Sylvia and her husband Guojun are fairly prominent members of Los Angeles's Chinese American business community. They ran a real estate company, Udao Management, that purchased over 100 residential properties in Los Angeles and flipped many of them for a profit. That suggests they have considerable access to capital. They ran the company alongside a group of other Chinese businessmen, some of whom were based and remain based, at least according to 2024 court filings, in Xinjiang. And they have also operated several other surrogacy companies.
Right. Okay. And so, as you said, the rules around surrogacy in the US, they're quite loose. Are surrogacy agencies required to be licensed or regulated anywhere, or does it depend state by state?
So there's a patchwork of laws governing how surrogacy contracts are negotiated and enforced. Only one state, New York, requires surrogacy agencies to be licensed.
Right. Okay. Fine. And so, what's happened? Where are the children now? Are they in foster care? Do the couple, the Zhang couple, do they have any of them, or what's happening?
The children that we are aware of are in foster care. Sylvia has said that she hopes to get them back, and we continue to watch the case. Sylvia and her husband, Guo Jun, were arrested in May. They were held for 4 days and released without being charged. The local police department tells us that they are continuing to review copious surveillance camera footage that they seized from the house. And they may rearrest the couple if the district attorney decides to bring child abuse charges.
I mean, does the surveillance camera footage could it suggest that the children were not being well treated?
What we know so far from a search warrant return that was filed by the Arcadia Police Department is that the 15 children who were living at the house were under the care of 6 nannies who slapped, spanked, and in at least one instance forced a 3-year-old to do squats. The surveillance footage also showed a nanny shaking the child who was eventually taken to the hospital, the child who started this whole investigation. So there is some indication that the children at the home may not have been well treated, although, again, I should say that the couple have not been charged with anything as yet.
Yeah, I mean, so to be clear there, if what they are currently being investigated for, it seems from what you're saying, is various child abuse charges, does that mean they're not even being investigated for any murky business in whether they were, whether these children were really intended to be their children, whether they were just a couple who wanted a huge number of children, or whether this mock surrogacy business was indeed a business? Is that not even being investigated at the moment?
So there are two parallel investigations, a local investigation into possible child abuse or child endangerment, and then a federal investigation into human trafficking and whether Mark surrogacy could possibly have been selling these children to parts unknown. Those investigations are not particularly overlapping, local authorities tell me.
Right, what an absolutely fascinating and disturbing story. Katherine Long, thank you very much indeed.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.